Okay, so I have a towel around my neck. I was informed by the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that you should always have a towel with you. So it's not my favorite one, but I got it. Uh, Andrew Gillespie writes, "Hey Yusuf, I recently had a conversation with a good friend of mine who is a hard anti-theist. Commend you for being able to be friends with such a person. I was telling her the differences between Orthodoxy and Western Christianity. I described our view of God in the language of the Tao Te Ching and how our view of the afterlife is similar to Nirvana. Did I represent the church well? Is this the type of language I should use? Tao, understood correctly, is representative of the Logos, right? And you could say aspects of the Father and the Holy Spirit as well. But so that's fine, right? But you can't just say it's identical, right? But it's a hell of a lot more closer than this weird idea that the West has. But even if you go into the literature of the ancient Western fathers or even modern Western church doctors, you'll see that they have the Tao, right? Not the Tao. Their idea of the logos, what logos means, is not what the Protestants say. The Protestants try to say, oh, logos means that there's the Torah incarnate, right? This ancient Jewish idea that the Torah existed before all creation and it was white and black fire that spewed from it and all this kind of weird stuff. If it was in the Gospel of Matthew, maybe they could make that argument, but not in a work like John. Um, I actually had an argument for 45 minutes. The guy that didn't speak any English, he was only spoke Spanish. Jehovah's Witness came to my door, right? I live in a sea of Anglophones, and somehow the Jehovah's Witnesses twice now know, boom, boom, mine's the door to knock on. Nirvana is a view of an afterlife. No, Nirvana is actually not an afterlife. Nirvana is a state that you reach while you're alive, a detachment, an end to the cycle of death and rebirth, an end. There's no more reincarnating into the nine heavens or the nine hells. It's oblivion. That is the opposite of what we believe. Now, there is a quiet, continual prayer of the heart or a deep mindfulness that is also practiced in Zen Buddhism. It's called Zen. It's a meditative form, um, or a focus on just the meditative form. That comes out of Orthodoxy. It has, I think, it's something human. So I don't think we say, oh, like people got it from the the Buddhists got it from the Hindus, or the Hindus got it from the Buddhists, or they got it from the hesychasm of the Orthodox Church. I originally thought because there's actually no written evidence of what actually the Buddhists really believed until about the 4th century AD, if you can believe that, 5th century AD in some cases. Um, but I think it's pretty much reliable. I think Buddhist history is pretty much reliable, and we can safely even say where Siddhartha is buried, actually. Um, but no, the afterlife, heaven, you could say heaven, hell, and God in the Western sense, we reject. We go back, we we stand in front of God, heaven, and hell. God, and we can use, we'd say it's like a blazing fire, because that's the image that's always given as a blazing fire, the Holy Spirit, right? At Mount Sinai, they screamed and hid under rocks and said, "Get away from us! It's too horrifying and terrifying. Get him away! You, Moses, you just go talk to him. We cannot physically handle this." In the Apocalypse of John, the same thing happens. Yet, there's cases where people are wrapped up in ecstasy when they're near God. It depends on, if they have the blessing of God, baptism and the Eucharist and Christ. Just like Isaiah. Isaiah was in dreadful terror, thought he was going to die until he was purified by the coals of the seraphim. Now, you don't have to take that literally, right, of that it's actually happened, but that is actually extremely important in telling you something about God's relation to man and what is going to happen to us when we confront God. When people talk about the terrors of the day of resurrection, that's very real. So It should be um, you should almost you should say, well, we're like the Buddhists, and we really can't say God, heaven, or hell because of the perversions of the West. I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, hell is the name of a Nordic goddess, and we use it to translate Gehenna, Tartaros, Sheol, and Hades. And heaven, we use that to say the sky. We use it to say the kingdom of God. We use it to say paradise. We use it to say, I mean, even the different levels of heaven, the 7 levels of heaven. Although some people say that there's 3, I don't know where the Paul said he was caught up to the third heaven, and they're thinking, oh, the regular heaven, and there's the water, and then there's the third. That's not how ancient people thought. They thought it was water up there because you could see the stars moving and the planets and everything, just like in a stream. And it was blue, and then it went black, kind of like the ocean does. Yeah, so Nirvana, no, Nirvana is reached here. I guess there's some forms of Buddhism which pervert Nirvana into a kind of a paradise thing, but no, that might just be a faulty understanding of this anti-theist view of Buddhism, though. Um, the uh, the the point of paradise now, of heaven now, to get to people now is come to liturgy. Actually, have them come to Vespers, just Vespers. Tell them they can leave at any time they want. Just say, if you just stay for 20 minutes, just watch, and then ask them outside. Doesn't it seem like you just stepped out of the noisy modern world and back into an ancient world? And tell them that nothing in that ceremony has changed, except it being in a modern language in over 1,000 years. There's no artificial lights. There's nothing modern. It's a place you can decompress from the world, and it's the only place where worship truly actually goes on instead of praying or a rock concert or anything. Ask them, look at Western Christianity, look at what has done. I mean, pre-Vatican II Catholicism, if the abuses that sprung from Vatican II had not taken place, if we were still in pre-Vatican II, Catholic Protestantism would be almost wiped off the map by now. The trouble is with Orthodox is we suck at evangelizing. We must stop this right now, right? Again, proselytizing, we don't bribe like the Muslims do. We don't threaten like the Protestants do with hell, or the Muslims with violence. But we need to get off this kick where we can't invite people to Christ. We can't invite people to church. The one thing that will get them to become Orthodox is seeing our church services. And the fact that we do not change. You can tell them, this person, we have not changed anything. We don't change. How many Orthodoxies take change a light bulb? Change what's change. And it's the last remaining thing of culture that you can pass down to your children, and you will be 100% certain that in 350 years, that church service will be identical. Name me another church in Christendom that can make that claim. Not a single one. This is your legacy. I mean, I think atheism is born out of selfishness, basically. But once they start having children, they're going to get worried. But using the Tao Te Ching language to talk about logos and God and stuff like that, and reminds me very much of the guy who came up with Cas. Not he didn't come up with it, but John Palamos. Um, but the Nirvana thing, I think that was her misunderstanding of the idea of a Buddhist afterlife. The Buddhists are trying to kill any chance of an afterlife. They're trying to go to oblivion, annihilation of everything. Um, they're trying to. They hate the idea of an afterlife, this endless cycle of death and rebirth. See, it came out of Hinduism, which said endless cycles of death and rebirth until you reach Brahman, which is this infinite sea of light. The Buddha said, cut all that out. Um, but of the mindfulness of Zen, we have that in full, and I think there's many religions that have that in full. That when they look at Buddhism, they go, so what? I mean, Manichaeanism tried to blend Buddhism, Zoroastrian, Christianity, and the Christians saw that and said, what is Buddhism bringing to the table? Life is suffering. Okay, yeah, but there's still joy in life. You're not saying anything important here. The Eightfold Path of Happiness. Okay, we already do all of those things. This type of meditation. Vipassana. Yeah, we already practice that. What is Buddhism adding to Christianity? So nobody really fell for Manichaeanism except in the East, where Christianity kind of had a hard time reaching in. Then it could just meld and take really weird stuff. Mani was actually executed by the Persians. All right, peace to you.